What's going on, everybody?
Yes. Good evening. The Merry Christmas edition.
Merry Christmas edition. I got my...
Let's see. Yeah, I did not wear my Christmas sweater.
I know. I don't know if our YouTubers can see this shirt. I'm pretty proud of this thing.
That is
That's creative.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to think about it.
It's for our non-YouTube watchers. It's Santa taking a crap down a chimney.
That's absolutely what he's doing. Got his newspaper and everything.
Yeah, So I've got the other one.
But it's snowy on that rooftop. I bet that's one cold seat.
Yeah, it is. He's sitting on a pile of snow. That'd keep it soft, I guess.
Woo,
but
soft,
that would be chilly.
Cold, yeah.
But I like to every year I try to get me a some sort of Christmas sweater.
That's an actual sweater. It's not,
it is.
Nowadays you see a lot of them. It's like it's a sweatshirt with just screen printed with something goofy on it.
This is the second one. I'll give this company a shout out. It is not made USA, but I'll just tell you, if you like these, it's called Tipsy Elves.
Yeah.
And it'll pop up on your phone later now that we've talked about it. But
yeah, it will.
I have another one of theirs. I actually probably wore it last year at Christmas.
Tell me what it was.
It shows Santa and it says, "I watch you sleep."
Yes.
And he's like looking in the window.
Yeah. Like peeping Tom.
Yeah. And man, they got all kinds. This one, I was between like three. This was by far the most tame. And the one I really wanted was like black or blue. And it shows Santa and he's like winking. And it just says, "Ask your mom if I'm real." And Marcy was like, "You cannot get that." And so she said, "My mother would be appalled if she saw you wearing that." And I was like, "Your mom has known me."
Really? Like that's not that.
And I told her, I said,
because there's so many double meanings there.
Yeah, just ask your mom if I'm real.
Well, and because like your kids see that, but it's not inappropriate in my opinion because Santa is their dad.
That's true.
Spoiler alert, if we got any young kids out there listening, sorry.
That's true. That's true.
Your dad is Santa, so it's not inappropriate to see mommy kissing Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Or if you see more than that, I mean, may not be good for young audiences, but
makes me think of the meme. I never watched much of the show Eastbound and Down when he goes, "Let the boy watch."
I've never seen it, but I've seen all the internet clips of that. I'm like, I obviously know what they're referencing, but I don't know where it comes from. So
it's Eastbound and Down.
Was it a TV show?
Yeah,
like
man. It's about like a washed up baseball player, and he's talking about how dude's Will Ferrell's not the baseball player. It's I can't think of his name. Kenny Powers is the dude's name in the show.
Yeah,
I watched several episodes. I mean, it's hilarious, but I just never finished it. But yeah, Will Ferrell, he's talking about how he learned how to become a man is by walking in and seeing his dad. And the way he talks, he's like, "My dad was making passionate love to my mother," or something. And she's like, "No, son, get out of here." And he's like, "Let the boy watch."
I was about to say, I've seen that clip. I just never knew what it was from.
Yeah, it's classic. Before we get into it,
that is a little weird. I'll go on the record and say.
Yeah, I don't think that's how I plan to explain the birds and bees to my children.
Yeah.
But two things: hit that like button, hit subscribe, share this with your friends, comment below, wish us a Merry Christmas in the comments below or something. Just comment to us below and leave us a rating and a review. And
go to agzaga.com.
Yep.
Use that discount code TalkDirt. I'm going to go out on a limb and say at this point, because this episode will drop on the 22nd.
I hope you've ordered by now.
They have extremely fast shipping. I'm always amazed by that, even on big, bulky items like your bayonet wrap, which it's not too early to stock up on. If you're ordering it here on the 22nd, that gives you literally one day to get it in time for Christmas on all the toys.
And see, the post office probably, I'm going to say they're probably closed. Are they? Well,
they'll run on Saturday.
Will they?
But literally, that'll give you just, but yeah, obviously 24th being a Sunday. And then
you better overnight that thing.
Yeah. Yep. And I've never had to do it, but you might be able to do the express overnight. I don't know. I'm not going to make promises for them, but if anybody could do it, it'd be them. But I got in some bayonet wrap a week or two ago. It's actually still sitting on my front porch, much to my wife's
dismay.
Yeah. Nice. She's like, "Will you get that off the front porch?" And I'm like, "Yes, I will," because I literally ride by the house twice a day, every day, with a side by side, but checking cows. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll grab it next time. And then I never think about it. And then I'm back in the house and I'm like letting the dogs out and I see it there on the porch. I'm like, oh yeah, I was supposed to get that off the porch.
And it happens.
I mean, it's not in the way. It's just a rolling net wrap. I mean, I'm sure our listeners can relate. Like, you have a rolling net wrap on the front porch. It's not a big deal.
No.
But how damn convenient is that? It's just UPS just drops it on my front porch.
I know. Used to we have to drive to Ripley. Well, I guess Dad and them still do.
Drive to the farm store. Yeah, we got to get on to them. Use that discount code, Talk Dirt. Your toys, maybe you got to give somebody a belated Christmas present, or you're just stocking up on net wrap or anything else for next season. But yeah, check them out. Use that discount code.
Talk Dirt, all one word, all caps, 10% off. What are you drinking?
Pendleton.
Okay.
I never
Sporting the PBR.
Yeah, they are sponsored. Normally I do it kind of during the NFR, kind of because the rodeo kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just didn't this year. But yeah, I polished off a bottle. I think it's probably the only bottle I've ever had of it.
I don't know if I've ever drank any.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not like a premium whiskey or anything.
Well, you had several swallows left in several bottles over there, so I turned your Buffalo Trace bottle into an Infinity bottle.
There we go.
I just poured them all together.
Perfect.
And I've done that in my house there. I did that. I've got an Infinity bottle, and I've got it over half full. It's actually pretty good. I don't know what the proof is, but...
So you're having Infinity?
No, not tonight. No, this is actually... I had some Elijah Craig in the house there, and I was kind of like... I hadn't poured any of that in a while, so I'm drinking the good old-fashioned Elijah Craig.
I'm afraid I've developed a reputation, and I'm truly not like a huge bourbon drinker. But I can't tell you how many bottles of bourbon I've been given in the last 2 weeks.
That's great.
I'm like, oh yeah, no, fantastic. Like, you can't go wrong doing that. But I'm like, oh gosh, everybody's giving me bourbon.
I will say that's one area where I am envious of your career. Because working with people like you do, you get those kind of people bring you. That's one thing with farming, I love my landowners and landlords I deal with. They're great, but they don't bring me whiskey. You know, typically, if anybody, we tend to take gifts. But I mean,
well, that's what when I was late getting over here tonight. I got a whole hog killed and been giving some sausage away to different people. But yeah, we do. Our clients are fantastic, but of course, I've been trying to watch my carbs and. Definitely not eating sweets.
When do you get your stuff checked again?
Middle of January.
Okay.
But even then, if it's good, I was like, well, I just need to stay at this. So my plan is long term, and I'll cheat every now and then, but I'm just not going to eat sweets, especially. Well, we are inundated with sweets, and I appreciate it. I don't know that any of my clients listen. It's probably better if they don't. But no, we appreciate every bit of it, and my staff loves it. But I just, I tell everybody thank you, but I'm like, I can't eat. Yeah, and I found it's so much easier just to be cold turkey, because if I allow myself to cheat a little,
I'm sure,
and then you start cheating more and more. But
yeah,
I'm hoping tomorrow, because I have a slam full day tomorrow, and I got to be at work. I'm hoping just somebody will bring us a meat tray, like a deli tray or something.
Yeah,
and we'll get a bunch of stuff tomorrow, because the last day will be open for the holiday, or even though I'm not a chicken guy. I'll bring us a plate of chicken wings. That would be fantastic.
That would.
Just something other than chocolate and cookies and cakes and all that sort of stuff. But
well, you said you had a couple stories. I got two. I got one good one and one wild one.
Well, there was a few things. Actually, one that didn't make big headlines or anything, but I saw this. Another guy I follow on. I follow him on Instagram, maybe on YouTube as well. He shared this, so I won't let you see it. I'm gonna ask you. So they actually had an auction for to rent out some farm ground.
Well, that's always high as hell.
And so and I looked him up where exactly where, and I knew he was in Missouri. This particular place, it's Ray, Missouri, REA, and it's northwest Missouri. So. Not quite to Iowa, not quite to Nebraska, but up that area. So going to be
how many acres?
Pretty prime farmland. 502 tillable acres.
All right, it's going to be high as hell.
So
575.
All right, so the per acre, It wasn't that high, and when I got to think about it later, I was like, for that area, for that much ground, this may not be as ridiculous as I thought.
All right, what is it?
$4.35 an acre.
That sounds horrific, and that is like for here, that's insane.
Yeah.
But I still don't quite understand how those guys make those kind of numbers pencil out. I was honestly expecting because we talked about one land rent like that auction, and it was like $600 an acre. But I mean, that's absolutely atrocious.
Which is a 3-year term, and year one also included a 10% buyer fee that I said was for the auctioneer. But which I got to thinking, because I don't know, because I'm not a row crop guy. So I mean, this may be 300 bushel corn ground.
Yeah. Let's see here. How much did you say?
So it's $435 an acre.
All right, well, let's just figure. Let's say $270 an acre. Corn. And current price. See, I think their prices are lower there than here. So I'll say $450. So that's $1,215 income an acre.
Gross in an acre.
Yeah. Now,
on corn, what's your just typical inputs?
You could, honestly, today you could probably say around $400.
Okay.
Inputs. I actually figured this year. I figured $450. So I'll say $450 minus how much rent?
$435 plus that 10%, basically another $450.
Okay. If that's right. Now some guys estimate that they have $600 an acre in their crops. But now that would be at 270 bushel corn. That's $315 an acre, which that's a lot of. That's still good. That'd be 100 or whatever, 500 and something acres. That's over $100,000. But what's wild though, that's 270 bushel corn.
Yeah.
And see, we had a farm.
Oh yeah. When things don't go right, it doesn't rain.
Let's say
it does not say it's irrigated. It doesn't say that it isn't irrigated either. It just says it's their exact words.
Well, let's say they even had
outstanding row crop farmland.
Of course it does.
Yeah, nobody's gonna do a rent or an auction for this is marginal ground.
But let's see if they had let's say 200 bushel acre. That's 200 bushel acre average here is good. Like if you have a cornfield that averages 200,
dry
you're
land
good.
especially, which vast majority around here is dry land.
Yes, and I tooted my horn a little bit this year. I had one farm, dry land, 45 acres that shelled 230 bushels.
Yeah.
Which that was the greatest corn I have ever had. Don't plan for that.
Is that your best farm as far as just year in, year out on the ground?
This first time, or actually it was the second year I've worked that farm. I had beans on it last year. It was a hay field that they wanted me to put in the row crop. But let's figure 200. 200 times 450. That's $900 an acre.
Yeah, they're losing money there.
At 200 bushel, that's crazy. At 450, and then we said another 450.
They're breaking
even.
Yeah.
If I had to shell 200 bushel corn to break even, I would shit myself to death.
Which again, that part of the country, 200 bushel corn might be a disappointment.
And it probably is.
I don't know,
because you're getting into that kind of the corn belt era, yeah, whatever. But I don't know, man.
I just that caught my attention a few days ago, and I was like, I'm gonna at least mention that. The other thing was,
well, hold on, like that. I even think, see, to reference that here, we had a farm that I decided to throw my hat in on. There's a farm out here, and it's.
Were they doing a sealed bid?
Yes.
For rent.
For renting it, and I knew realistically I was not going to get this farm. Like it was 400 and something acres. Now it was a shady deal because it had irrigation on it, but the irrigation was owned by the people that were currently leasing it. The city owned this farm or owns the farm, but they allowed. It's kind of a long thing, but the farmer initially had bought the irrigation, put it on there. Well, the guys that were leasing it bought the irrigation from him. So they were bidding on irrigated ground. Everybody else was bidding on dry land because basically if you won,
they were going to come take the pivots.
They were going to take the pivots off, or you had to pay them to rent the pivots. And so you were going to You would have, it just,
it made no sense for anybody else but them to keep renting it.
yeah. And, but there was some guys, I mean, and I got absolutely blown out of the water because I sat down. Now, this was it's prime ground. It's very high yielding ground, 70 bushel bean ground, 200 bushel corn ground, like easily. And I was putting pencil to paper, and man, like I pretty well knew it was probably going to take at least $300 an acre to get this place. And I just wasn't going to do it because at $300 an acre, on a good year, you make some money. On a bad year, you would lose your ass. Like it was like, that was one of them farms where like if things go well, you could make $150,000 or something. But if things go bad, you could lose $300,000. Like, I mean, that's the kind of place when you're paying that kind of rent, it could absolutely break you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Put
so
you under, yeah.
And the winning bid was $312, and it was the people that had the irrigation on it, and they just somehow knew miraculously because they were like $4 an acre higher than the next bid. So somehow their sealed bid was miraculously enough. Like, it was kind of weird deal to me.
Well, and I guess I don't want to turn the whole episode tonight into this debate, but how do you feel about landowners doing that as a way to pick a tenant?
Man, I be honest with you, I hate to see it. I mean, I think, some people that advocate for it say that it gives unknowns an opportunity to bid. Like some guys would say, well, it would give Logan the opportunity to compete with the big guys.
Yeah.
Because he could show up but
yeah, and that wasn't even an angle I mean that's a pretty obvious one, but not one I'd really considered.
And that's what the advocates for it say. And that's, yeah, it does. But all I think it would potentially do is just ultimately drive rent prices up so high it'd be unbearable.
Well, and kind of from that angle, and looking at it from maybe the landowner angle, I feel like, the argument is you find out exactly what it's worth.
Yeah.
Because I assume that was more of a traditional style auction. You had one guy that was willing to give $452.
Yeah.
Or what was it? What did I say? $435.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah. $435 an acre. So you had one guy that was willing to go up to $434, and one that was willing to go to $4. So that's what it's worth.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no
whether it's profitable at that amount, but
right. But there's no truer way to know what something's worth than having guys there bidding on it, and then finally everybody drops out but one.
Yeah.
And it's great for the landowner.
Oh yeah, I think it'd be good for landowners.
And it's a 3-year term, but I do worry. I'm like, okay, well, say they have some buyer's remorse and they're like, yeah, this is not worth that. By year 3, are they, taking care of the ground the way they should be?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe surely they've got some clauses in the contract. They got to, use certain practices. They can't just totally wreck it for whoever the next tenant is or whatever. But
I bet they don't.
Yeah, and I don't know how easy that would be to enforce. But I can see both sides of it where it's like, yeah.
I think it just would make the rent get. I think it would just make rent get astronomical.
Which, like the place you were talking about, because it was the city owned that property, I feel like they almost have to do it that way. Because it's publicly owned property. Like, you need to give everybody. Now, for an individual landowner, I still really like to see a landowner develop a relationship with their tenant, and hopefully it be something, for years they can keep in place where that tenant is going to take care of it just like it was their own, because they know, hey, realistically, as long as I don't, just be a total asshat or do something completely ridiculous, I'm going to get to rent this for the next 10, 20 years maybe. I'm going to treat it like it was my own.
Well, and see, the hard part about places like that you rent, because we actually work one place that is owned by like the city or county or whoever. And the problem with it is you get like a 5-year lease, but it's all public knowledge what you pay or lease. And so you almost are forced every 5 years to increase the rent. Yeah. And it gets to a point where it's like, because you're the one working it and you see the kind of ground, like you realize this ground is just really, we're getting to the point where it's not worth the amount that you're paying. But like you just, at that point, you've got those acreage, that amount of acres in your flow. So like you hate to lose those acres, but it puts you in a difficult spot because you don't want to lose the acres, but you're steadily, every 5 years, you got to bump the rent up. Now, some people will put a thing where along with a cash offer, you have to include a plan, like a plan for what you're going to do. And like your aim to increase or benefit the ground. And that's where, like, I know some of these cities and counties and stuff, they can they don't just have to pick the highest bidder. They can say, well, their bid was good, but their plan was the best. And it kind of gives them that door there. Yeah. And I actually kind of like that because you do got guys, because look, that ground that we've worked, we got a guy that's like stink on shit about this farm every time it comes up for rent. The guy called me the other day telling us about this farm, like when the contract's going to run out and come back up for rent. He said he's had a couple guys bugging him about it, and I said, I guarantee I know one of them. And I named him, and he said, well, yeah, he's called. I'm like, yeah, I know that son of a bitch is called. He wears your ass out about it. Yeah. So, that's what's frustrating. It makes you have to pay more and more and more. And eventually you get to the point where it's like, man, this is really not worth it. And so I guess at that point, that's when you have the upper hand knowledge at that point, like, well, hell, I'll let them go but lose their shit on this place. But yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I see your point there. Yeah, because everybody else, I mean,
the grass is greener kind of thing.
Well, right. I was going to say, like, we're like eternally optimistic. Like,
yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I was going to make it kind of really inappropriate.
Go for it.
I was going to say, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. And there's always that dude that's like, I can
do it.
Yeah. It's like, man, if Logan's giving that place up, it probably ain't too great. It's like, but one guy, it's like, man, it's, I don't know. And I'm just throwing numbers out there. I have no idea. Like, $225 an acre rent. Like, I can probably make that work.
Yeah.
And like, you're like, literally the guy that's been working it the last 5 years is not willing to pay that. Like, you should know better. Like,
yeah.
Like, no, like dudes have been there and tried that.
That's a great way to look at it.
But the outside looking in, you're always thinking like, oh, it can't be that bad. Like,
I can fix her.
Like, yeah, you're like, I can fix her. I can save her.
Yes, that's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's very
everybody
good.
Always you get smitten by either a little bit of booty or a little bit of dirt, and you think, oh, I can make it work.
Yeah, well, and that's what I mean. The snide part of me that gets annoyed by the people breathing down my neck. It's like, if I was telling Dad this other day when we were talking about it. I said, well, if they want to jump in there and bid some crazy price, I said, hell, I hope they do. And I hope they lose their ass on it when they do. Like, it's just, I'm like, let them do that.
Well, yeah, right. If they're going to be reckless with it, yeah. You don't want to really root against them, but then it's like,
oh, I do when they go after, I take it that like when it comes to farming, it's like a very, very thin line between business and personal. And
yeah,
I had that conversation with another farmer the other day. He called me and we were talking about that, and he was talking about one of the big guys that had kind of made some remarks to him, and he basically was telling me he's about to unleash hell on this guy's property, like trying to rent a bunch of his ground. And he said, because the guy he made some remark, and he pissed me off, and he's done me dirty, and he was like, man, I'm just not going to be a nice guy anymore. And I'm like, hey, do what you got to do. And he said, he was like, man, he just had enough. And he was like, I take this stuff personal, man. It's my livelihood. And I said, hey, I get it. I'm with you. So,
yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, there's a thin line. And if it's a guy that just jumps in and needs the ground, and I'm like, hey, whatever, he's willing to take it. But when I got a guy that every single time I'm talking to landowners, and I'm hearing this same, like, one or two people every time, and it's just like they're literally breathing down my neck. They're the ones that I'm like, man, 1 or 2 more phone calls. I'm about to start calling your landowner. So we're like, I'm gonna start playing dirty too. But
yeah.
So, what else you got?
Well, the only other thing, tell you what, I'm not even going to mention it because we're already 25 minutes in. I don't want to. If I mention this topic, we might get off down a rabbit hole. And
all right, well, I do have a crazy story.
Yeah, I know you told me you had a pretty crazy one, so I'm more intrigued by your story than this one.
Well, the first one, this one's not crazy. This one's just cool. We've mentioned them before, and we're gonna have to have Matt and them come and be on the show.
Matt and Kelly, yeah.
Yeah, Matt and Kelly Griggs.
They can bring Andy too.
Yeah. You know, they're only like an hour away from us.
Maybe a little over an hour, but yeah,
Gotcha.
Hour and 15, maybe hour and 20.
Well, Matt, man, I gotta hand it to him. Matt, which we've referenced them a lot on here. They were the chicken litter episode where we went into talking about them facing.
The city of Jackson was trying to force them to quit.
Yeah,
being able to spread chicken litter for fertilizer.
Yeah,
the most natural and sustainable fertilizer probably that's used on a large scale.
Yeah,
you know, at least in this part of the country.
But it smells bad for 2 days. Well,
that's why I said it smells like cheap groceries.
Yes. Matt, did you see he made headlines recently?
I don't guess I did.
Yeah, man. He talking about low input soybeans yielding huge.
Well, I know that's one of his big things is, you know, that there's all the yield contest and all that kind of stuff, but he'll reference it like on their YouTube that, you know, he's more into, like, what can I use to make this piece of ground most profitable? Like growing 90 bushel soybeans may not be as profitable as growing 60 bushel soybeans, but with lower inputs. Yeah, man. And I read this article. It was on AgWeb. And was it on there just today?
No, this was actually like a week or 2 ago.
Okay, I'll have to look it up because
I thought, this one was on there like 2 days ago.
Okay.
2 days ago.
I should still be able to find it pretty
This other one was about 2 weeks ago. But Matt was talking about, and this is where I'd love to talk to him and ask him, because he said his input cost, he also experiments, he does double crop soybeans. And he said his input was $97 an acre. Man, if that's it, like I gotta know more, because I'm figuring probably around $225 to $230 per acre on soybeans. So man, now his full season soybeans may be different input wise, but I know on his double crop he said $97 an acre. But his average soybean yield, he said, was like 81 bushels to the acre.
So, and see, I know very little about soybean farming and definitely about inputs. So, would you say yours was 225?
You could say 225 to 230.
So, how much of that 225 is seed cost?
Like probably $40.
So it's not much.
No,
I was like, maybe they're just doing a super low population, but
no, and he's doing 140,000 population.
But yeah, when that's that small of a percentage of your input, that ain't even that.
Your chemical and fertilizer is that's your big inputs. I mean, you might have, I say $40. It could go up to $60 on some, but I mean, that's still, man, that doesn't leave.
Well, but even if they're planting half the population, like you're not saving $100.
No, like that's where I'm like, man, that's why I got to know more. I got to know, is that 97 acres? Like, I'm like, does that include seed costs? Because if that includes seed costs, I'm like, I'm just intrigued. I'm intrigued by it.
Fuel alone, because I mean, that's figured in fuel and everything.
Well, you usually don't figure fuel in.
Okay.
Yeah, typically your input cost is going to be seed, chemical, and fertilizer.
Okay.
Now, if you throw fuel in the mix, it definitely pump it up there. But, but the cool
pump those numbers up.
Yeah, pump them numbers up, rookie numbers. But the cool thing was, what do you think the number one growing weapon, like when his plan of soybeans, how you get that good yield on there, what do you think the number one weapon is?
Oh, I'm pretty sure I know this because I heard him say it. Plant early.
Plant early because of the sunlight. Sunlight is number one.
Which that's a good reference because you know what today is.
It's what is today? The first
the shortest day of the year.
Okay, that's right.
I've heard him reference that. Because June 21st or 22nd is summer solstice, longest day of the year. He's like, they want as many of them, like, I guess, blooming. He's like, that's the one thing that we can't, there's no way to get more of it. more water, you can be irrigated or whatever. You can just get better rain one year. We can get more fertilizer or whatever. He's like, but sunlight is one thing that, is totally controlled by the good Lord above, or by the tilt of the axis of the earth, whatever. That's what controls all that. And that's one thing for certain every year. The most sunlight we will have all year will be on June 21st. And so, I've heard him say that.
Well, that's what he said. Like his weapon, he said he's got three things that attribute to the low input, high yield soybeans. He said sunlight, sunlight, and sunlight. And that's what, and I think he said, I wrote early April. I think he said he started planting his soybeans around April 10th or so. And see, I've done met with my seed guys a few times already. And I've told them my plan is actually to, now it's obviously depending on the weather, but I'm going to cut back on my corn. I honestly have even considered the idea of maybe not growing any corn next year, going all beans, which I usually like. I love growing corn, but I might try to plant a few soybeans in March.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about trying some like right at the end of March. Now, obviously, spring can be a battle. Like, if not, I'm not necessarily worried about the cold as much as it just might be too wet. Like, that's the big thing we usually face is sometimes we're mudding a crop in. But my plan this year is to plant a lot, if not dang near all my soybeans early this year.
So not much corn.
Not much corn, man. I'm thinking, I don't know, right now maybe 200 acres of corn.
So you don't like whiskey?
No, man, Luke Bryan, he'd be really disappointed in me.
That's the perfect country and western song.
But he doesn't mention trains or mama.
Or
I guess he does getting drunk.
Yeah. But no mama, trains, trucks, or prison.
Yep. But he does mention getting drunk.
Yeah.
But that's it. Oh, who is that? David Allen Coe?
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say we got to throw that reference in there. If you don't understand that reference, you need to catch up on your outlaw country. But yeah, he did say the main things focus on was sunlight, precision, and weed control, and then just focusing on the basics. Yeah. And I mean, the weed control, he said he goes because they're big cover crops, so they go in and pretty much do a burn down with paraquat, and I kind of even appreciate the paraquat because
I say don't let Bryce Mitchell hear about that.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. I sent you the video of him.
You'll end up in prison.
Yeah.
He is now a believer in gravity.
Yeah, my Austin sent me that. He sent me that today. It's a video of Bryce Mitchell, and he's telling Michael Bisping that gravity is not real, and then it just cuts to him getting smoked in a fight and dropping to the ground. He gets knocked out.
Oh yeah.
Gravity.
Which
took a toll.
Part of me damn, I don't want to see the guy get hurt, but I was like, yeah, explain how gravity does not exist.
You just plummeted to the earth after that punch. But yeah, man, I mean, a big thing, like his double crop soybeans average like 58 bushel or something. I mean, Matt is killing it. Like he's really killing it. I got to hand it to him and Kelly. And we'll have to reach out and have him on. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Oh,
he's a wealth of knowledge. I mean, I wanted to just share that. And because it really flies in the face of I think a lot of guys, myself included, we get caught up on, well, what do I need to apply to this crop? What do I need to keep applying to this crop to make the yields bigger and bigger and bigger? And it's like, really, I need to just focus, honestly, planting time and getting that sunlight is going to be the greatest boost you can give to those beans.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to get like too deep and metaphorical, but I mean, time is the biggest thief. I mean, that's one thing. And I know you're the same way. Me, as your kids are getting older, like that's one thing you realize. You're like, man, time is the one thing. Like you can't buy more time with more money. I mean, that's like time is the most precious thing we have. And it's no different than with a crop. Like, no matter, you can throw the kitchen sink at it otherwise, but if you're not getting those limiting factors with that sunlight, and that's just time.
I had a landlord tell me this. I had actually never thought about it this simply. And he listens to the show some. And so, like, if you're listening, man, we appreciate you. But he made me think, kind of shook me a little bit in a good way. But I was like, damn. We were talking about trying different things in crops and like experimenting, because he's in the ag sector as well. And we were talking about like experimenting with different cover crops and all this. And he was like, the average farmer really, he said, he probably only gets 30 different crops to plant, like in his lifetime. Like meaning you're only going to get to experience probably 30 seasons.
Yeah.
Like, as the average guy, let's say, the average age of a farmer is 60. So, that wouldn't even be that much. But let's say like running your own operation. I've been doing it at younger than most, but like even realistically, I might only get 40 or 50 if I'm lucky to do that. And if you think about it, getting to do something that few at times is not very much. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, how many surgeries do you think you've performed on a dog or a cat?
Like just individual surgeries?
Yeah, anything.
So I've been out of school almost 15 years. Work, how many days in a year? Oh, God, yeah.
Hundreds. Thousands?
Yeah, thousands. Yeah.
All right, so, see, like, that's what it's wild.
Like I did, I'm trying to even think.
You made a trans cat today, didn't you?
I did 2, and depending on what you consider a surgery, maybe 3 surgeries today.
Yeah. See, like
and I do have a pretty sweet gig where I only work 4 days a week, but in 50 weeks, that's 200 days a year I work. If I do 2 surgeries a day, that's 400 surgeries a year times, let's go ahead and say 15 years. That'd be 6,000.
Yeah.
surgeries.
See, that's wild when you think about that compared to farming. Even on the cattle side, like, you really are only getting to raise a herd 40 or 50 times.
Yeah, you're only having, 40 or 50 calf crops if you're lucky.
Yeah,
you're right.
Like, it kind of, man, it really kind of like, it kind of put me back a little bit. I was like,
because I'm 8 years ahead of you, and turning 40, and I've not like been devastated or going through a midlife crisis. Maybe I have. I don't know. I didn't even mention. I did buy another tractor this week. Maybe I'm going through my midlife crisis. I say I bought one. I traded.
Instead of a Corvette, you're going for the tractor.
Yep.
Well, at least you can use something like that, though.
Oh yeah, that's my excuse.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, man. When you sit back and think, you're like, it's really morbid, but like, gosh, like if average age is like what 73, 74, well, I'm way over halfway.
Yeah.
At this point,
Yeah.
I'm halfway to 80. And I've had friends die, and not from like car accidents and things like that, where you're like, oh yeah, that could happen to you. It's like I've had friends and people my age just die, and of stuff that you're like, that shit shouldn't happen, but just to old people.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm old people now, but yeah, no, you and you're like, oh man, yeah, and like with kids, yeah, my daughter's 9, and it hits me, it's like, holy shit, and she's 9, I've had her here 9 years, and another 9 years, she's gone. Theoretically, some kids hang around. That's the way of,
she might be 30 and still living at home.
Hey, and in a weird way, as the dad that's like not ready to be an empty nester, which I gotta, my son's 3 years younger than her, but I won't be an empty nester after her. But it's like, holy crap, I've only got her, like her time really with us is halfway over.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Dang, that
was a punch to the gut.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause my kids will be 6 in February.
So they're a third of the way there.
Yeah. That's crazy. That is, what a depressing thing you've taken us down.
My brother gave me a statistic, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like, it was crazy. Like the percentage of time you actually spend with your kids is like, by the time they're age 12, like the vast majority of it's already gone.
Really?
Like the time you physically are right there with them.
Yeah.
Because you think, like, once they move out of the house, and which I'm probably a little different because I work with my dad, so we may not fit that perfectly. And yeah, you're kind of the same way, but like, assuming your kids, move out of the house at 18 and go on and have their career, and even if, you see them at church once a week, whatever, like, yeah, you're barely around. In the grand scheme of things, even if you have a great relationship. So yeah. Sorry to depress
We just
everyone.
Depressed everybody.
Yeah, here with our Christmas episode. Here I am, just shortest day of the year. There's very little sunlight outside, and here I am, just a dark
Just
cloud.
adding to the darkness.
Yeah.
Well, All right.
He's like, pour me another drink.
Well, yeah, get you. Yeah. Well, we'll turn the tides here. This is crazy. This was really crazy. Have you ever heard of Robert and Viki Warren?
I don't guess so.
They farmed in North Carolina tomatoes. I got to pull this article. I had wrote notes down, but I got to pull this article up so that I don't miss anything, because this was one of the wildest stories like I've ever read.
I don't know that I've heard this story.
It's about the massive crop insurance fraud.
Was Chris Bennett the author?
Yes.
I will read it. If you've never read Chris Bennett, I could read.
But you haven't read it yet?
I don't think I've heard this one. Did it just come out?
Came out on the 5th.
Okay. He did the really big story on the tobacco crop insurance. Yep. Like, fantastic read. And it is a long article.
Oh, this one was long. Yeah, it's really long.
He is, and I'll go through like their archives of just his articles and read them. He is brilliant.
It is very good. It is very good. And I mean,
he's an excellent storyteller.
The opening paragraph to this story is, sex and power are primal, but greed is the father of farm crime. Welcome.
Well, that's the three. That's the three things men are motivated by.
Sex, power, and greed.
Sex, power, and money.
Yep. And he says, welcome to a $9 million orgy of fraud steered by an unassuming husband and wife. American Gothic gone bad. And it just gets crazy as hell from here. So you got,
truth is stranger than fiction.
It is. I mean, this should be a movie. Like, it really ought to be. So you got Robert and Viki Warren. Let's see. I don't want to unleash all the, because he sucks you in right here. I mean, again, the dude is good. Oh, like, he's very good.
Again, his writing, I can't recommend it enough. Like, whatever he's writing about, I'll read it.
Yep. So in 1996, they said it says prior to becoming either the unluckiest farmers on the planet or serial liars, Robert Warren and Viki Warren. Robert was 49, Viki's 43.
Today they're that old?
No, this was in 96.
So that was 27 years ago?
Yeah. I guess, I don't know if I'm assuming they're still alive. But yeah,
that would only put them at what? They're 49,
70.
60. No, yeah, you're right. 70, mid-70s, mid-late 70s, yeah.
But they owned R&V Warren Farms outside Candler in western North Carolina. So not terribly far away from us. But they lived in a brick ranch-style home fronted by a pickup truck in the driveway, no Cadillacs, no swimming pool, no shine, modesty. It talks about here they were tomato farmers. They grew a ton of tomatoes. So they had 10 farms in 2 states, North Carolina, South Carolina, and it later grew to 26 farms in 3 states. But it said typically in these cases of insurance fraud, they're usually bad farmers that become good at fraud. But it said and I
would imagine it's because they've had to file claims because they are bad farmers.
Yeah.
And they realize, shit, this shit's easy.
Yeah.
And then they just they're like, we're just going to start farming for the insurance.
Yeah. And that's where they said this story was backwards, because they said they were actually great farmers. They said they grew very high quality tomatoes.
Plot twist.
Yes. And look, dude, I hear on a much lesser scale of guys trying to cheat the insurance today. You still hear it. That's where I've said, man, some of the best people I know are farmers, some of the worst I know are farmers. Because I hear them, they'll be like, they'll claim could not plant because of the weather and certain things, and then they get a payment, and it's like, everybody else could plant, but you couldn't. So people are still doing it, but this one was just wild because of the scale. So in 97, said the Warrens noted frailties of crop insurance oversight. They went on talking about investigating it. They understood the winding back alleys of crop insurance, but they didn't understand or failed to recognize federal investigators cold-nosing their paper trail. It says the lead prosecutor was Richard Edwards. But where this gets crazy, like at some point here, it even says they had a veteran, an Army veteran pretending to be blind, who was taking in disability payments while coaching archery shooting lessons. But and I don't know how he was tied in them, but here it says crop insurance frauds often involve farmers that are failures from start, but not so with the Warrens. They had an excellent product in their fields. They just loved money. So they just like from 1997 to 2003, with the help from several drive-by insurance adjusters, they raked in $9.2 million in fake claims. That's some pretty big insurance fraud.
Yeah.
It said they sold hidden tomato yields out the back door. So what they were doing, they would claim like it shows
that the crop was a big failure, and then they would sell it on the black market.
Yeah, they'd claim like they should have had 500,000 like cases of tomatoes. They only actually got 250,000. And they'd get paid essentially this $150,000 insurance payment, but then they had 500,000.
They were selling them under the table.
They'd sell them in the back.
Well, the big, and I'm kind of trying to recall, but the big tobacco insurance fraud that he wrote a really good article on was kind of the same way. I think they were farmers would claim a just devastating loss, but then they were still able to sell the tobacco, under the table. You know, which that's where that one, and I'm sure this one probably does too, involves so many more people because it's not just them that are.
You got to have to pull off what they were doing. Basically, your agent, the adjuster, like all these people really kind of have to be involved.
Yeah,
because like we have filed insurance claims before, and an adjuster always comes out and looks at everything.
Yeah.
And that's what they were having adjusters sign off on all this stuff. So, like it says here, across 10 farms in 1997, the Warrens claimed losses on 5. It says on their North Carolina farms alone, they professed a total harvest of 293,000 boxes, while really they grew roughly 500,000. It said all said they received 644,000 in crop insurance just in 1997. So, and it says here they figured out it was really easy money. And so they just kept doing it. And they figured out a system for it. And I don't want to jump ahead. Try to get here because they actually get a farm in Tennessee. And that's kind of what is ultimately their downfall. So let's see, by 1999, they had 20 farms. They claimed losses on 18 of the farms. Says with an abysmal overall average of 71 boxes per acre, but they were actually making 3,386 boxes per acre. So they're just smoking insurance. In 99, they made $3.8 million. It says off the backs of fellow farmers and U.S. taxpayers. And at one point, the guy said that they tried to play the victim card when they get busted, and he says his agent, they basically say the agent was like, man, the money's just there for the taking. Like he was kind of trying to act like he almost didn't really think he was doing anything wrong because his agent was advising him to do this. But they change insurance companies like 3 or 4 times. Like they change them because I think they kind of feel the pressure growing because it's just getting out of hand. So, let's see. Total insurance in 2000 was $2.2 million. And then let's see. They even sued Patent Seed at one point, claiming 2,4-D damage from a neighbor. They claimed $600,000 in damages, and I think they ended up getting that. But what got them here? So it says on Independence Day of 2001, the Warrens conducted one of the most outlandish dupes in the history of U.S. agriculture. And he shares this kind of at the beginning. And this was where I was reading this earlier. I'm like, we got to share this. So they switched insurance companies and they added a new farm in, is it Coke County, Cockee, or is it Cock County?
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Cock.
Okay. And how far was that from us? It says it's in West Tennessee.
No, Cock's east.
Okay, they put here it says Western Tennessee property.
Nah.
Gotcha.
No, that's East Tennessee.
Okay. Well, I was like, I don't think that's near us.
That was a typo.
Gotcha. We'll have to get on to old Chris. But says pretending to have grown tomatoes on the ground back to 1991, paving a full decade of forged documents with notarized lease agreements, false testimony from a realtor, fantasy planting dates, fantasy spraying records, bogus record harvest, false diagrams detailing an irrigation system, and hundreds of fake invoices. Like when they raided these people's house, in their basement, it said they had PVC pipes lined up in stacks, and they had fake documents in like all of them. And they could just pull documentation out and send it in, and it was like planting dates, spraying dates. This like they had made this like
a well-oiled machine.
Yes, and so it says insurance acquired. The Warrens planted 252 acres of tomatoes on this farm in Tennessee. How many do you think they actually planted?
0.
They planted 5, so they did plant some.
Okay.
They planted 5 acres.
5 acres, still a lot of tomatoes.
It is a lot of tomatoes. But in July 4th, 2001, and this is just creative, a devastating hailstorm materialized from a painted blue sky and released its fury exclusively within the bounds of the Warrens' tomato rows. Have you ever heard of something like that happening?
I mean, not specifically.
Well, that's because their farm employees used disposable cameras to record the catastrophe and submitted the hailstone photos. They sent them pictures, and it showed earlier, like, because they laid black plastic down, kind of like what I did for my pumpkins, and you can see the like hail all around, and the crops are just absolutely beat to death. Well, the way they did it was they had their employees go to Piggly Wiggly and Walmart. They got a bunch of Mexicans, and they bought a bunch of ice and mothballs, and they took pitchforks, and they went back out there, and they like took the pitchforks and used them, and they launched the ice, and they had a guy taking pictures, and the ice and the mothballs was falling, and they were like recording while this was falling. And then afterwards they stopped. They had a dude go out there with a stick. And I mean, yeah, it was like 10,000 or 16,000 plants on 5 acres. And it said they had one Mexican with a stick that went out there and beat the shit out of all of the plants with this one stick to just absolutely devastate them. Then when he got out of the way, they took pictures of it again. And that's what they sent in to their insurance, saying that the crop had been devastated. It's pretty creative.
But they got caught on that deal?
So it said they sent them in. Bobby Chambers, farm manager at the Warrens. This is him describing the scene. The way we did it, we was down taking pictures out this row, and then we just stood behind it, throwed the ice over the top. To me, it looked like a hailstorm. They had one Mexican who did all the beating. He beat every 16,000 of them. He'd just go through there, knock the leaves off of them. It made it look like where the hail had beat it up. It says over the past 20 years, the prosecutor Richard Edwards is still jolted by their moxie. It said the plants were about 1 inch high, completely destroyed. And it said in the photos, sure enough, there was ice on top of the black plastic and pitiful plants torn apart. But they did, I guess at this point, they were like, something is up with them. So like the investigators started searching.
I'm sure you can just look at like nobody else growing tomatoes files anywhere near this many claims. Like these people are the outlier. Like something is up.
Well, that's where I'm like, look, all right,
I can't get away with this. To me, like if I'm being a total outlaw, like, all right, I'm going to get away with it one good time. But I guess you get
addicted to it or something.
Yeah. You're exactly. Yeah. You can't quit. Like you're like, all right, that was too easy. I'm going to do it again. Like, no. You quit while you're ahead.
That's what
that's the lesson for kids out there listening. If you're going to cheat and be fraudulent and try to beat the system, quit while you're ahead.
Well, and that's when I'm reading this, that's what I was thinking about. I was like, if I was going to be a total renegade and do something like this, I would hit it like 2 years in a row, and then I'd go like 4 years before I would even consider doing it again.
That's what you say you would, but like say.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you did it 1 year and it's like you just make $1 million and you're like, that was too easy. And you do it again, and it's like, damn, and like nobody's investigating. I guess I could see, but I mean, I don't know, just my logical side of my brain would be like, dude, at some point this is, you're going to get caught. Like you're doing a criminal activity. But when the investigators like raided them, and I don't know why you would keep this again if you're going to do bad stuff, but they had outtake pictures as well, and they had those in the basement that they raided. So they had the pictures of them like that they submitted, and then they even had the pictures of basically of the dude like beating the shit out of the plants and like all this stuff, and it said they even realized some of the tomatoes looked like mothball, or not tomatoes, but the hail. They were like, they even looked like mothballs. Like it's because they were mothballs. Yeah, and it says here in the second set of photos, the hailstones looked amazingly like mothballs because they were mothballs. And so in the replant, the Warrens pocketed $98,000. All told, in 2001, they received over $1 million, and claimed they were owed an additional $3 million. See, like they were so hell-bent on it, they would even like sue people, like trying to get more funds. But staying on the move, so that got investigators, I guess, on them pretty hot. In 2002, they switched to a different insurer and used a virgin farmer name, Front Producers, as window dressing. But on March 12th, the plans went sideways when federal agents with search warrants descended on their home and 2 packing houses. They found a trove of evidence in the basement, and there's the PVC pipes that had like all their documents in there. And fast forward down here, they busted them. I was going to see their time. And it says here, we strongly suspected they were burying cash on their land, but there was no way to find it. And so just remember that part because it comes back up in the story later on. And the Warrens were extremely defiant. It said they literally pled not guilty the entire time. They claimed innocent. And it said until they were literally at the gallows did they finally plead guilty. And it says the Saddam Hussein of crop insurance is what he calls them. And so they got them about $9 million year by year, claim by claim, lie by lie. This was the evidence. They were filing fraudulent applications for crop insurance, then filing false claims, loss claims, submitting falsified records, creating thousands of false forged documents, staging false weather disasters, using false records to file a fraudulent civil suit, and attempting to create false farming entities that would appear to be run independently. So they had all these different charges stacked up against them. And they finally pretty much pled guilty. And let's see here. The sentencing says almost the entire Warren crew confessed. Their crop insurance agent, he pled guilty, received a 27-month sentence and an $8.15 million penalty in restitution. Thomas Marsh, the loss adjuster, admitted guilt, was sentenced to 14 months and $767,000 in restitution. So, see, I bet you they were cutting them some money.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like they had to be being like, hey, man, we can score this pretty big. You know, you pass this along, we'll cut you $100,000 or something.
Yeah.
Harold Dean Cole refused to plead, went to trial. He was found guilty at trial of forging agriculture spray records. And he ended up, he was sentenced to 46 months. Dang. So for him, like, not pleading guilty, he got 46 months in prison and $2.18 million. So all of them got it. Viki Warren, the wife, was sentenced to 66 months. Robert was sentenced to 76 months. And then 6 years later, he was released on November 29th, 2010. Said he quick stepped back to the county. Well, he started showing up to the bank and he was depositing money in the bank, and said he deposited about $208,000, and he was doing it in like a few $1,000s at a time. But they said the money was like moldy and musty and stunk, like it had been buried for a long time. And it flew through the bells off at the bank. The bank gets involved, and they end up finding out that they had somehow secretly buried a bunch of this money that they were supposed to, pay back in restitution. And he had a bunch of it. So he ended up going back to prison for 29 more months for, what they call that, bank fraud and probation violations. And, I think that was the complete undoing of him at that point. And it says here, he concludes this by saying, The Warren case is as old as time, Edwards concludes. Love of money is the root of all evil. Maybe it's just that simple. It appears the Warrens stole to steal.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised.
So, yeah, I've read that and I was like, we got to talk about that one. That is nuts, man.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm going to read the article. Like I say, Chris Bennett he's very entertaining, very, very talented writer.
it is very well written. And for anybody, yeah, if you want to read it, go to AgWeb. It should be in some of their like most recent news. It was on December 5th.
There's a way you can search and you can find just all of Chris's work.
Yeah.
Chris Bennett just spelled like you would think Bennett would be spelled.
Yeah.
Chris as well. So, yeah.
Well, it was crazy. So, well, it's Christmas.
All right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Do you want to tune up the man? Because this is actually an American company I got here.
So is this one.
All right.
We ain't bringing no Japanese or Chinese shit on here.
I've got two.
Apologies to the Japanese. I know they're a ally now. But
hey, and I tried to actually buy locally too. I didn't even order these.
So I did have to order this one.
Well, this took a little doing for me to find, and it worked out because they paired really well together. But they are both American made.
Oh wow, multiple gifts.
Yep.
2 words. Made in America.
All right.
All right, here you go. Well, these go together really well.
Okay. I'll do this first, then I'll give you yours.
All right.
I feel like I may have been outdone.
Well, no, man, it wasn't like crazy high dollar or nothing, but they pair.
Okay.
And Bobby Lee was
when you mentioned disposing of a dead body, I was like, this is what came to mind.
Yeah. So it's made in USA.
Yes, it is.
Tannerite.
Tannerite. It's legal, stable, and patented. Daniel Tannerite. What has their? It does not have their exact address. Where is it made? Do you know?
I don't know yet, but I did look online, and which it's got the big American flag on there.
Oh,
but I
you're
looked
right,
online, and it said it is made in USA.
Yeah, I doubt a lot of our
Explosives.
yeah, other than fireworks. Oh yeah.
Do you have any of those?
I do not have an Amend 2 mag.
Yeah, I was really happy when I saw that because I have some of their mags, and they're
Yeah.
really good mags.
Yeah, made in USA.
Amend 2 for your AR. That's what, when I was like looking, I was like really looking for American made stuff. I found the mag first. And I'm like, man, what pairs well with that? And I'll be damned if they didn't have some Tannerite up on the shelf. And I was like, that's perfect.
So yeah, they're in Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Yep.
Yeah. No, yeah, I do not have. I don't think I have any Amend 2 mags.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to say on air how many mags I have.
Yeah, no, I'm with
I
you.
don't have.
I don't have any.
Okay. Well, and see, we'll have to add them to the list.
We will.
So your gift is actually a company we've highlighted before.
All right.
The guy,
Man, you can't ever go wrong with some gloves.
So I can't give away too much on air because we may have some listeners that might have some gloves coming to them as well. But the Geyer gloves, made in Washington, I buy them. I believe it's from Texas Good Glove Company, because Geyer does not sell retail. But there's they go to their website and yeah, Texas Good Gloves, and that's a good. And I believe it's a really small outfit. Obviously, they're in Texas, as the name would imply. But I've ordered from them twice.
Man, I like these. They fit good too.
All that, and they'll like I wear a pair every morning. And when I ordered those, because it takes a little while to get them, because when you order them, like Geyer has to make them.
Really?
Like, it takes several weeks to. In fact, I just got them this week. Like I got to worrying because I ordered them like in October. I was like, all right, I'm planning way ahead. I'm getting them for Christmas, and I was like, oh crap, like they might not get here.
Do they sell these anywhere? I feel like I've seen Geyer.
Maybe like when you go to their website, they list a few retailers where you can buy them online.
Yeah.
If they sold them somewhere local, I would love that. Because the pair I've got, like as long as you don't do something just wild in them, like I don't.
You don't fence in them?
Well, and actually, these are what? Are these elk?
Yeah, elk skin.
So I bought a pair last year of the elk, and I wear them every morning.
Yeah.
Like that's what I do my chores in. And then I also bought a pair, I think it was their bison, and they're just a lot thicker. You don't have as much dexterity.
Yeah.
actually, just the other day, it was the first time I fenced in them, and they held up good to the fencing. So they're not as good for like everyday work, but, but a little thicker.
How'd you figure the size?
So I figured you had just a little bigger hands than me. Actually, the pair I wear every day are that size, or 9.5s.
Yeah.
But it's like over time, as I've worn them, it's like they've gotten a little looser.
Gotcha.
So I actually downsized by half size what I just bought.
Yeah.
That's when I had to call the guy this year. I was like, hey, I actually do want to change everybody's size down by a half size.
Yeah.
But
man, that's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that, Guy. And it's for people. It's GEIER.
Yeah.
Geyer Glove Company. I see in Washington.
yeah, they're in Washington State.
Made in USA.
Like giving also a shout out to Texas Good Gloves. They were just the easiest website I found to order them through. And
Yeah.
say good dude. I can't think of the guy that that runs the shop, but both times I've ordered from him, I've talked to him on the phone, because first time he's like, hey, he's like, I just always call everybody on the Geyers, like they have to be like custom made, so it's like it's going to be a little while. I was like, oh no, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have to have them tomorrow, but
Well,
I wear leather gloves all the time. I know you do too.
Yeah.
And I buy the ones at the store here locally, and they're fine.
And the thumb is way too long.
Well, and it just, like, all mine have holes in them. And
Yeah.
like, I'll take them to work with me just because the surgeon in me, like, I want to stitch them up. And I do. And, like, I'll restitch and patch holes in especially some of the higher dollar leather gloves I buy. I've been wearing the heck out of those. Like, they're as solid as a rock.
They look like they would be, and it's double stitched. I see on like around these fingers here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I put leather gloves through hell. So yeah, man, yeah, I'll put that to good use, man. That'll be good.
Good deal.
After you blow something up there, and we got to dispose of the carcass, I'll wear my leather gloves to.
Well, I meant to tell you when I got over here, I got something we might
to test out
to blow up.
stuff. Well, I tried to get enough. I was like, because I've shot some tannerite. Have you ever shot it?
I never have.
Man, I've shot some in the river bottom one time. We shot like 8 pounds, and it was big. But I was like, 2 pounds, you could do a pretty good explosion with 2 pounds.
Just because I'm about to go home, is this safe to like store in my house?
Yeah, it's until you put them together.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to put the pouch in there and
I
you
see
shake
that,
it
yeah.
up,
Yeah, that's what makes it.
and then it blows up in your hand. But you better wear your Geyer gloves when you mix it. No, it won't blow up in your hand, but and I think it has to be like supersonic rounds to actually set it off.
Yeah, 2,000 feet per second or greater.
Yeah.
From a distance of 200 yards or greater.
Well,
Which I imagine that's more for, yeah.
They got.
Well, you see all the videos on the internet and people like shooting shit and like.
The refrigerator door blows past them, their head. Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard of people, I'm not condoning this, but like shooting hogs, like somewhere where they had tannerite set up like over bait.
Yep.
And then like I'm down with that.
That's what I'd love to like take some tannerite, take like a carcass of some sort, maybe stuff the tannerite in there, get a coyote up there eating it, and maybe shoot it and see if it just blow them up.
Yeah.
So, well, there you go, man. Well, guys, Merry Christmas. Before we finish up, you do need to go to agzaga.com, get your last minute stuff. Like I said, you will probably be late for Christmas, but hey, it is what it is. Use that code word, Talk Dirt, all caps, all one word.
Yeah, if you're like my family, like on my mom's side, and Sleep Millet, we do this every year. Like we don't have their big family gathering until a few days after Christmas.
Okay, so you still got a few days.
Yeah. Well, we either have to do it, and I think I probably mentioned like I have like a couple of nurses and paramedics, EMTs on that side of the family, and so a lot of them, have to work the holidays, and so we always end up doing it either before Christmas or after Christmas. So if you got one of those kind of Christmas gatherings where it's a few days after Christmas, still got time to do it.
Yep.
But
check them out.
Or if you just need some farm supplies,
use
that code.
Get on there, get what you need. Guys, like I said, hope you have a Merry Christmas. Do us a Christmas gift. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. Yes. Leave us a rating and a review.
It'd be the greatest gift you could give us.
It is, literally.
I get more questions every day about my hair. And I was like, we hit. And they're like, well, when can you cut it? And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, at what point am I allowed to cut it?
I don't know, because, see, mine is pretty annoying at this point. Like, my daughter has actually been, I'm
amazed. And I mean, obviously, you just, like, top of my head, like, yeah, we're not even going to compare. But, like, your hair just grows. Like, even where I have hair that really grows, like mine still isn't near as long as yours.
I have when we work out, I can't wear a hat anymore. So I actually, I tell you, I kind of feel like a samurai because, for one, Emerson now she'll pretend, or she practices putting ponytails in my hair now. But when we work out, I've been having to get Marcy to put a ponytail in like the top part. It's not all long enough together, but like the top is getting pretty long. So she'll put like a ponytail. So it's like the sides and the top are pulled back into a ponytail, and then it's long in the back. So I feel like a samurai, like when we're working out. And I almost wore it that way tonight. I was like, I'm going to bust out the like samurai ponytail for the podcast tonight. But I was thinking that the other day because we had our Christmas at the Grove thing at the church the other night, and it'll be again this Sunday. They did it at the Ruffin Theater, and I dressed nice. And like I usually slick my hair kind of back whenever I don't wear a hat, but it was slicked back. But then it's like so damn long that it's like going down past. I had on a suit and going down past it, and they were like, "You look like John Wick." When I was there, because his hair is like slicked back and then long at the bottom, and that's what one guy was like. You look like John Wick with your hair.
That's absolutely a compliment.
It was a compliment. I was like, hey, that's good to get. That's good to know.
Yeah.
But I thought about that. I was like, I don't know how long we're supposed to go, but
well, I'll see your mom this weekend. I got to sweet talk her into like trimming my front up because I feel like I really need to go down to the true skullet.
Yeah.
Because right now I just hadn't cut any of it, other than me like just trimming around my ears. Like
I told her that you were going to get her to do a full skullet.
Because like my few little, sad little hairs on top, like it's so weird because they're like every bit as long as the rest of it, but there's like 4 of them. What do I do with these 4 hairs?
Yeah, I got her to cut it, but now I got her to just trim, like to shape it up. Because I told her, I was like, I got to grow it out to in my mind, I'm like, if I can get it to where I can have one full ponytail, then I guess I've reached the pinnacle.
But then it's like, man, I put so much time.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm like, if I go see, and I'll never rock them. Like, I'm not a man bun guy. I think those are gay. But now when I'm watching some movies or something, it'll be like some bad. Like if I watch like a badass movie, the bad dude, he's got like a ponytail or his hair is super long, and I'm like, that kind of looks kind of cool now.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So yeah, guys. But do please leave us a rating and review. We haven't bugged you for that in a while. And Bobby Lee and I, we need to scheme up. It's probably about time we start turning up the gears for another giveaway. We've done closed that chapter.
Think of something,
if you got a cool idea for a giveaway, comment below.
A cool idea for a contest, and then a cool idea for what the prize will be too.
Yep. So, all right, guys.
Which next week we'll have to do our
goals.
We'll have to reflect back on our goals.
Yeah, I got to go listen to that episode.
Which I got to go look, and see exactly what mine were and see if I hit them. And then, second goals for next year, which, Lord, I feel like these last few weeks I've had a lot of stuff go on.
Yeah. And, I'm with you.
But yeah, that's, I'm looking really forward to next week for that reason. Because I just need to look back, like, did I hit my goals? I need to do a better job of, like, writing my goals down.
I do too.
And not just writing them down, but, like, having, like, a whiteboard or a poster, like, in my office where, like, I look at them every day.
Yeah.
I actually saw somebody had posted, another ag guy I follow online, a goal that he had, like, put out there. And he's like, no, I had this written. In 10 years, or I say that, 8 years ago, he wrote that goal down and he hit it. And it was a 10-year goal, and he hit it in 8 years.
Yeah.
And he was just like, he believes in the power of writing it down, like you looking at that every day and the power of that. But anyway, that's next week. Y'all got to tune in.
Well, I got to tell you something cool on that. So not ag related whatsoever, but it is on the power of writing it down, which that's one thing I did. I made a lot of times I'll write projections down on a notepad. But the other day, I had some slow time. All my track hose are broke down. Everything I got's broke down. So I was like, well, we got time.
Goal for 24 is to get your track hose running.
Yeah. I'm going to sell one. I'm going to lean down. I've got some interesting goals for 24. But
that's a teaser right there.
Yeah. I'll save that. But I made a very professional looking 2024 projection plan where I even put my logo on the front. It's like a 5-page projection plan.
Damn.
And I even have like high yield projections, low yield projections, I have every single cost broke down on there. So, and I encourage you guys to do that. Like, kind of hold yourself to it, because I put a budget for miscellaneous, budget for fuel. So I did that the other day. But what I was going to say on the power of writing stuff down, I kind of nerd out on that a little bit, which the other podcast I used to do, Living Fully Loaded, was kind of that, it had kind of that motivational tinge to it. But Jim Carrey is one that he did something pretty cool. Have you ever heard about him writing himself a check? Did you ever hear that story? So I don't remember the time frame. It was like probably in the late 80s or early 90s. I think it might have been in the 90s. He wrote himself a check for $20 million, and he dated it like a year or two later, or several. I don't remember the exact span between, but he wrote it. It had a deadline because he put a date on the check, and it was for like a couple years in the future, and it was $20 million, and he was a struggling stand-up comedian basically at this point. And this story's legit. Like, cause I looked, I was like, man, damn, is that, well, in 1994 or something, whenever he did The Mask, he was kind of struggling, and then he landed the role of The Mask, and it fell like basically right almost exactly on the date that he wrote, and the role paid him $20 million. So like it's just wild. Like, to me, I was like, that's pretty fascinating. He wrote himself a check for $20 million, and then he landed a role almost at his deadline for $20 million. So like, it's pretty cool. So, I mean, I do think there is probably some power in the, like, what do they call it? Affirmations or something.
Well,
like,
when it's written down, it's right there in front of you every single day. Like,
yeah.
Even if you subconsciously just, you just see it there. Like,
yeah.
That's
and it's the power of being positive, because there's also negative guys. If you get up every morning, you're like, looking at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I'm a piece of crap, I'm a fat loser. Like, then you're going to eventually convince yourself of that. So yeah, man, give yourself some positive affirmation. There's a good positive message for them at the end of.
There's your positive Christmas message.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
No, man, let's go blow some shit up.
Yep. I'm ready. Merry Christmas.